So my bad, I forgot that you also need still 7 and still 4 in the stills folder, and then we'll go from there. So I have stills 4 and 7 or whatever I just said. This is when I don't have a printer. So the first two we'll need to import will be, well, first we'll need to add Glow 1 to our timeline. So let's go into, so let's do this again. So we'll import our new project. So and my interface looks the same from the last time. So projects folder, just make sure that you save it into a folder that is going to be accessible to you. And then I'm going to call this Day 1 Tutorial. And so then, so your new project is essentially started. And hopefully you still have these audio meters up because we'll be using that. And so the first piece of video we're going to need is Glow 1. So you just add the whole thing to the timeline. So this is when you can just use drag and drop. So you just hit open file, and of course I had it all ready to go, and now it's going to be lost. There it is. I had it up on my, so we're going to need Glow 1. So as you can see, it's a pretty long file. It's 4 seconds. So you can literally just drag this onto the timeline. And that creates a, it creates some graphics onto your timeline. This means you're going to lock your track. Sometimes you want to lock your track if you don't want anything to be messed up there. This gives you audio from the track. So as you can see, it's up, so it's not muted, but obviously if you want to mute it. And then this makes it visible. Okay, so if any of these are toggled, then it might explain why you're not seeing any of your video or hearing any of your audio. So this is just playing the entire piece of video, which is just 4 seconds. So you're just going to play it. And it's going to stop at the end. This is your playhead, by the way. And then what we do next, okay, double click the doing, so this is a little bit different. This is the Final Cut Pro directions. Go to the glowing light clip, and rather than putting it just as is, start it a few frames into the clip. So now we want to open up glowing light. So again, rather than starting at the very beginning, I'm going to shift it back a little bit so you can scrub back and forth. So I'm just going to start a few frames. So 30 frames. So 30 frames make a sec. Actually, it looks like this is shot in 24 frames per second. So notice 24 frames per second goes 23, and then it goes to, so that is the number of frames for 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to start a few frames in and then hit my I for in. And you don't need to set an out point here. And then you can just hit append to this current track. So what that does is it inserts the track into the timeline. You can also drag it because it'll keep your in point, but you can go ahead and hit append. So now we have our play. So notice it goes whoop. Okay. So that's the second part. So what we're going to do is we're going to build it from there. So scenic 1. So we're going to create an endpoint where the shot stabilizes about 5-second in, and create an out point just before the shot ends, and then add it to the timeline. We're going to mess up the audio in a second. So create an endpoint where the shot stabilizes, create an out point before the shot ends. So this is scenic 1. Let's open up scenic 1. So you notice what happens is the shot's wobbly at first. And so this is what happens a lot when the students just kind of slop everything on the timeline and edit from there, as they get some messy editing. So look at this. So we want to make sure it stops, it steadies, now it's steady. So it's about 3 seconds in. Still is kind of moving around a little bit. So about 5 seconds in, you want to hit I for N. And then it says about just before the shot ends. So not the whole clip, but just allowing the clip to play. So as you notice, it kind of wobbles at the end as well. So I'm going to hit O for out. And now I can append this to the storyline. Again, you can just drag it if you want. And I'm going to use this one. Okay. So now what happens here is now we have this really, really loud audio, because we're going to add another track in here in a moment. So we've got this really loud audio. We've got no audio. And then we have this. So we're going to adjust that. Okay. So what we'll need to do is go to this little display, or this little 3 lines that just gives you some other options. So you hit that, and you're going to, oops, that's the wrong one. Sorry. So for this, what we want to do is we want to split the audio, because right now this is it's keeping the audio and the video together, which is great, but sometimes we want to manipulate some of the audio and in the video. So you'll hit Option click, Control click. Where is it? And detach audio. So go to the clip itself, Option click, Control click, or right click it, and then detach your audio. Okay. So as you can see, what happens is we don't have any audio in these tracks, but we do in this one. So then from here, this is what we'll actually go to our filters. And although you won't be using video filters, you want to add an audio filter here. And some projects you can do it actually on the timeline, but this one for some reason doesn't allow you to. So we're going to hit add a filter, and we want to hit gain volume. Okay, hit gain volume, and we're going to just drop it down a little bit. So let's play that. So let's drop it down, adjust it a little bit, so it's maybe about maybe like a 25, a minus 25 dB. Between the minus 30 and minus 25 dB is good for nat sound level. And it really depends upon what's going on in the primary audio. So if your A-roll, your narration is very soft, then obviously you'll want to bring that down a little bit further. So that gets you started, at least in the first part. So now you have 3 shots laid down. You've manipulated some audio there. So you'll want to save that project. I don't know why I'm going to cancel that. Usually allows you to save it. Okay. It's just saving the XML, which is fine. All right, so let's stop here and then we'll go to the next part.